So, what can you do with the money that you earn? Well, you can spend it, or you can invest it into some financial institution, often a bank, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that. And they pay you to invest their money. And that amount that they pay you is a certain percentage of how much you invest, and that's what's called interest. So say, for example, you invest $1,000 at 5% a year. That means at the end of it, we do simple interest. That means at the end of every year, they're going to give you 5% of 1,000 or $50. That's how much you'll get in interest, and they'll add it into your account. So obviously, the higher interest rate, we want higher interest rates when we're investing. When we're borrowing, interest is charged as well. So if you want to borrow money from a bank, say to buy a vehicle or something like that, okay, then they charge you to borrow the money, and that charge is the interest. Okay. And as I said, there's two types of interest. One is called simple, which is used in different areas. Okay. The other one, called compound interest, is more commonly used. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But a simple interest formula. Come on. Why are you not working on formula? Okay. Pause this for a second. So simple interest can be calculated by the formula. I capital equals P times R times T. Where I represents the interest that you get when you invest something, or you have to pay when you borrow something. P, and this is what we're going to commonly use in any type of financing, home or vehicle. This is the amount of your investment, or the amount that you borrow, that we call the principal. So amount invested or borrowed. R represents the annual, and annual just means yearly, interest rates. Now, we'll be given the rate as a percent, but when we do calculations with it, we have to change it to decimal. It's just like if you use a calculator to find the percent of a number, you never use the percent, you change it to decimal and multiply. And T is the time that you invest or borrow in years. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to invest or borrow on a yearly basis. I mean, you could borrow money for half a year. You could invest money for 300 days, but we can calculate that based on a fraction of years. Okay. So let's just look at a couple of examples. So you've got Olive, who invests $1,500 in a financial institution. she gets an interest rate of 4% per annum. Annum also means same as annual or per year. Calculate the interest she's going to earn at the end of, and then it's different time periods. So 3 years, using the interest formula, and you don't have to write this, but I'm going to write this on the slide. The interest is what's unknown. How much is the principal? How much does she invest? $1,500. The rate of interest as a decimal. What is 4% as a decimal? That's 40. You got to move it twice. 0.04. And the time, 3. So you just plug those in and calculate it. So 1,500 times 0.04 times 3 will give you your interest, which will come to $180. What about if she's only going to invest for 7 months? Again, the interest is unknown. The principal is still 1,500. The rate of interest as a decimal is 0.04, but now the time has changed. Remember, the time has to be in years. How do you write 7 months in terms of years? It's not a full year, is it? It's only part of a year, a fraction of a year. 7/12. So if you're finding out per month, always take the months over 12. So here we would do 1,500 times 0.04, and then times 7, and then divide 12. Obviously, it's not going to be as much interest because it's only 7 months. $35.
Question.
Yeah.
So I know, like, the consent has to be in decimal, right?
Yes.
Like,
How do you change?
yeah,
Sure. Okay. So whenever you change from decimal to percent, at 4%, the decimal's here, right? Just move it back to 1, 2, and it becomes 0.04 as a decimal.
Okay.
That's it. So 40%, you would just start at the end of the 0, move back, it becomes 0.4. Yeah. Oh, I know, it's been a long time since we've done those.
yeah.
But that's, yeah, definitely, we're gonna have to know percents as part of this. Okay, finally, what happens if we invested it for just 100 days? So again, we've got the interest is our unknown. The principal remains at 1,500. The rate of interest remains at 0.04. But this time, the time, how do I write 100 days as part of a year? 100 over 365.
If you write it, if you reduce it,
Nope, leave it, because you're good, because we're calculating it, right? So we don't need to worry about reducing. So 1,500 times 0.04 times 100, and then divide that by 365, and you'll get your answer. Obviously, it's not going to be as much as the previous two because it's only 100 days, which is a little over 3 months. You should get, remember, when you calculate money and you go into decimal, we always round to 2 decimal places for money. So you got to go to the 3rd decimal place to tell you whether this saves as 4 or whether it moves up to 5. Okay? But you want to avoid those rounding errors. So that's how we calculate interest. We can also use this formula to find interest rates, to find how much you invest for, to find how much you invest for borrow. So if you think about it, just sort of using simple algebra. What if I wanted to know, like, what if I was given the interest that I made, given the interest rate and given the time, and I wanted to know how much I invested? Well, to find out the principal, just divide this by RT to cancel these out, which means you got to divide that side by RT. So to find the principal, you just take the interest divided by RT. What if we're given the interest, the principal, and the time, and we want to find the rate? Well, interest equals PRT. I want to get R by itself, so I'm going to have to divide out PT, which means I'm going to have to divide that side by PT. So to find the interest rate, you take the interest, divide the principal times the time. One more thing that we could find. What if I want to find the time to invest? Which is something valuable. I mean, like, you know how much interest you want. You want to figure out, okay, how long do I have to invest my money for if I want to make this much? So interest equals PRT. This time we divide PR to get T by itself, which means we divide the interest by PR. And we get this. So basically, if you want to find P or R or T, take the interest, divide the other two times, multiply together. So let's just finish up by looking at a few examples like that. So Brooke has $2,400 to invest in a financial institution. What's the interest rate, or what would the interest rate be if she wants to earn $300 on her investment after 2 years? Well, we could just do it like this. Using your formula, plug in what you know, and then solve for what you don't. So here the interest is $2,400. The rate of interest, sorry, the interest is 300, pardon me. I'm ahead of myself. The interest is 300. The principal is 20. The rate is what we don't know, and the timing is 2. So 300 is going to be 2,400 times R times 2. So how do I get R by itself? I've got to take 300 divided by these two. So I've got to do 300 divided by whatever 2,400 times 2 is. And that will get me my interest rate. Remember, that's going to be in decimal. be careful with this. Don't do 300 divide 2,400 times 2. You need to do the 2,400 times 2 first, and then divide the 2. I didn't do example 2. Oh, right.
In the wrong spot.
That's all right. Just go opposite and draw an arrow. That's okay. We'll do this. Okay, so we get R is equal to 0. Okay, this is exactly that. R equals 0.0625. But you got to change that to percent, so you got to move the decimal forward twice. So 6.25% is the interest rate you need. Okay, now I'll jump back to example 2. Why the smartboard does, whenever I click the next page, it always goes to the bottom of the next page. It's weird. Okay, this one, Freya. This time we don't know how much money she's investing, but she wants to earn $200 after 4 years at an interest rate of 5%. So how much did she invest? So the interest is 200. The principal is, the rate of interest would be is 0.05, and the time would be 4. So plug those amounts in and then divide to find the principal. So $200 is going to be my missing principal times the interest rate is decimal 0.05 times the amount of time she invests for it. So to find the principal, I have to do 200 divided by 0.05 times 4, and you got to do that multiplication first before you divide. And you should get $1,000. You can probably guess what the last one is. It's trying to find the time. So Wade borrows $5,000 from the bank. He's charged an interest rate of 4% per year, which is actually pretty good these days. Calculate the number of days Wade kept the money if he owes $360 in interest. So again, our formula. This time our interest is 360. Principal is the amount borrowed this time, $5 grand. Interest rate is 0.04, and time is. So again, we're going to divide. So 360 is equal to 5,000 times 0.04 times T. So we got to divide 5,000 times 0.04, which means you got to divide 360 by 5,000 times 0.04. And that's going to tell us our time, which works out to round it. 1.8 years. Only if it asks, or does it say? Sorry. Yes, calculate the number of days. So how do I calculate how many days is 1.8 years? What would I do? How many days a year? 365, so I just multiply 1.8 by 365. And I'll get 657 days. Yeah, if it didn't ask for the days, you can just leave it as years. So that gives you an idea of simple interest. Simple interest is what you want when you borrow money. Compound interest is what you want when you invest money. Because compound interest builds on interest. So you actually get more, but we'll talk about that tomorrow. Okay. So for next week, exercises 1.1 and 1.2.